I'm sitting here with my buddy Tyler. He has a Fiesta ST, and we're going to do kind of a similar video to what I did with my friend Dan and his Challenger 392. This is an owner interview. We're just going to be talking about his ownership experience with the car, essentially. The good, the bad, and kind of his real experience with it, using it as a daily driver. Welcome to the show, Tyler.
It's a pleasure being here.
Excellent. So, first and foremost, let's start with the stupid kind of stuff first. What's your favorite thing about the car?
Oh, favorite thing about the car? You helped me buy the car. You helped me when I was looking for it. So this wasn't the first car that I was looking at. I was looking at multiple, but kind of the shortages and everything like that, I was kind of having to shop around a bit more, and then you suggested this, and I found one and I really enjoyed it. The big selling point for me, I'm a sucker for turbos, so just having that turbo sound was fantastic to me.
And yours has an aftermarket blow-off valve, right?
I don't know for certain. I haven't actually looked.
It sounds like it does. So I don't really remember at this point. So I know that I recommended the Fiesta to you back then, but what other kind of cars were you considering at the time before you bought it?
So the other cars that I was considering at the time, so I was dead set on, I wanted a Veloster. I wanted a Hyundai Veloster, and it was, I don't know why, it just caught my eye. I loved that it was also a turbo car. It's a little bit more powerful than this, but looking at the cost of them, it was, I think at the time it was about
like 10 grand more,
10 grand
or
more,
even more. Yeah.
I couldn't really justify the cost of that. It was a little bit out of my price range, and then I was looking at the Volkswagen Golf, and
like a GTI.
GTI. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that was, I was looking at that. That was, it wasn't unique or anything to me. I didn't really see I didn't see myself driving it.
I see a whole lot more GTIs than I do Fiesta STs.
Yeah. It wasn't very unique. That was kind of the one thing that was, they're very nice cars. I enjoy them, but just, it wasn't for me. I kind of was looking at Miatas a little bit. I was looking at a couple like the normal BMWs and stuff like that.
So, like, in hindsight, are you pretty happy that you went this route, or do you wish that you had, like, gone and driven more cars, maybe found something else, or are you pretty happy with the Fiesta?
I don't know how much, I guess I can't really look back and say that this is exactly the car that I would have wanted, because I didn't really go out and test drive anything else. There was the restrictions at that point in time, and then also, I knew the Veloster was out of my price range. That was one that I did want to test drive. I actually think I did have I was going to go to a dealership at one point, and that was, I think, the 1 or 2 days before you called me and was like, oh, hey, you should take a look at the Fiesta. I completely forgot about that.
I remember it hit me suddenly. Like, I had been making all these, like, different recommendations as to what car you should be looking at, and then months go by, and I'm just sitting at my desk one day. I go, oh, Fiesta ST. He should get a Fiesta. He's looking at Veloster Ins. They're like 30 grand. Why don't you just go look at an ST? Has the size kind of impacted your use of it, like as a daily driver? The fact that it is kind of on the smaller side, or is it the right size car, you think?
It's the right size car most of the time. The only times that I've really struggled with it are when I'm trying to picking up anything in bulk is kind of difficult. I know that isn't really the intended purpose of the car, but considering that I use it as a daily, it's harder to go out and like, oh, you want to pick up a piece of furniture or something like that. For doing grocery shopping, getting to work, going out and doing stuff, it's a pleasure to drive. I have no complaints with that.
I think that it's probably coming around to be like a real kind of enthusiast sweetheart. Like, people really have fond memories of the car. It's not that old, but regardless, like, I think it's going to be kind of a cult classic going forward.
I'd be curious to see if Ford will actually try and bring it back in the future, because it almost seems like a loss to really have.
It's definitely a loss for like entry-level enthusiasts that you can't afford like even say like a Mustang GT or something. The Fiesta ST was like that man, I got my first job out of high school, I'm working a lot, like I could go buy one of those new. We can move right on to kind of the negative, like what is your, we've covered like some of the inconveniences of your car, but what is your absolute least favorite element, big or small?
The really only downsides that I can really say is, I mean, the back seats are basically there for show.
Really?
No one is gonna fit in there comfortably unless
Like an
they're
adult,
a child,
you mean? Yeah.
or like they're fairly small. I don't fit in the back seat of my car. And then I guess just the cheaper interior.
Yeah.
I mean, I get why they did it, because for the price point of Fiesta, it is a great price point. So I understand exactly why they did everything that they did. There's a couple of things that I do question, like the textured dash. That's a little weird to me.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I like that.
It's just like textured hard plastic.
Yeah,
right?
it's just textured hard plastic.
Yeah.
There's
I mean,
nothing
that's not
special
out of the
about it.
ordinary at that
Yeah.
price, but I get it.
It's nothing out of the ordinary. And then some of the plastic around like the seats and stuff, like where you like go to recline back and things like that, it's very cheap feeling plastic.
Yeah.
So I mean, everything that matters, like when you're dealing with the shifter, when you're dealing with the entertainment system, when you're dealing with the steering wheel, all of those, like they spent the money where it needed to be spent. So those are where it's nice. That's where it feels really good. Oh no, I know exactly what I hate the most. I completely forgot about this. I remember this coming up when you were shooting for reviewing the car.
Yeah.
I hate the positioning of the brake in the gas pedal.
Oh yeah.
I hate that, especially having bigger feet.
Yeah.
I am constantly pressing both of them.
Huh. Interesting. Because I remember having a like maybe related issue where I found heel toe downshifts were like really difficult. Either because the pedal spacing like left to right, or even like their depth.
They're so
Something
close
was
to each
really
other.
hard, but like it's an easy car to rev match.
Yeah.
But heel toe was oddly difficult for me in that car. I'm sure I'd get used to it as I drove it more, but I did notice the pedal spacing was like a little strange.
I mean, it is just a 4-cylinder. Like it's very fun to drive. It's very tightly geared up at the beginning.
Yeah.
So when you're going through first, second, third, going up into fourth,
close ratios.
it's very fast. It's very zippy. It feels nice, especially when you're on a back road, a little windy.
Yeah.
It's fantastic to drive. Once you start getting up to like highway speeds, you're driving on the highway.
Yeah.
You put into 6th gear, you're basically maxing out the car. There's nothing.
Like highway speeds, it just kind of falls on its face a little bit. At least stock.
All that power is in the low gear. So when you're on back roads and you're tightly going,
You're in the meat of the power
It's
band.
fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so enjoyable to drive in those situations, which is I will admit the problem that I have with it is because the where I live plus how I'm driving it.
Yeah.
I don't get to experience that very often.
Yeah. Your car has to suit your
Unfortunately.
situation at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it's like, as much as we can say like the Fiesta ST is amazing overall, it's not necessarily amazing for your situation or somebody else's situation. I know we'll bridge this gap now. You're going to be selling the car pretty soon, or at least be trying to sell the car pretty soon. It's not really a fault of the car. It's just kind of a lifestyle move. If you were going to be keeping the car, what kind of mods or changes were you looking to make to it during your ownership?
So, in the time that I've owned the car, which is a little over 2 years, I've wanted to do I wanted to do the stage 1 tune, which is just the spark plugs in the tune, getting the cob access port. I wanted to do that. I wanted to do a little bit with the exhaust, but really there isn't a whole lot that I would like to see out of the car as far as performance tuning or anything like that. There's not really anything that I'm looking for more out of the car. I wish, I mean, I might still have the opportunity to do this, so I might try to bringing it to a track, but
Oh, in the in between before you sell it?
yeah, in between before I sell it.
I could make that happen.
Just I'd love to see how it performs there. 'Cause,
It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem that I have with it is it's a fantastic car to drive around for fun, especially if you're going around on back roads and things like that. But when you're just doing daily commutes and things like that, especially when you're in like busier areas, more
Yeah.
urban areas, like you aren't doing back roads or longer
Yeah.
distance traveling, it's just not as fun to really be driving.
Yeah, I
Unfortunately.
mean, at the end of the day, it becomes a manual, relatively stiff suspension car. And
Yeah.
if you're just living with it constantly, like in the inner city or something, it probably gets old. So I
Yeah.
respect that. Like, that makes sense completely.
Yeah. I mean, I like the car. I don't regret having it at all. That's the hard part is I don't regret having it. I think it is a phenomenal car to have as especially as a first time, like the first car that I've owned that's a manual. It's not hard to learn how to shift on. If you want to start trying to tighten that up, it's very nice to try and let you learn.
So kind of a good first fun car.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's not like it's not sloppy. It's not like a very basic manual where it's like all play. There's not really much, like you can't really tighten things up or you can't try and like make it more fun. This, like, it's great to learn on, and then if you actually want to start trying to bang through the gears or things like that, you want to have a little bit more fun. It's not bad. It's very enjoyable. It's very gentle with it.
Yeah, it's not like trying to learn on a 392 Challenger like Dan did.
No. No, it is not.
Not that that's a hard car necessarily to drive stick on, but it's a funny car to learn stick on. As your first car to learn stick,
Yeah.
a 392 Challenger is an awfully funny one to do it.
That's
And seeing a brand new black 392 stalling at every stoplight really just warmed my soul. And cheers to Dan.
Yes. Cheers to Dan.
Let's go! Oh, fuck. I'll catch up with you.
Yeah, I don't envy that. I will say that that's probably a much harder experience. I was very happy that I learned on the 325.
Yes,
That
yes.
was a great car to learn on.
And learning right before an autocross event too,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
you drove in.
I did.
Yes,
I
you
drove
did.
that in, and then the following year, without even following up, you
Yeah.
told me to hop straight into the Z.
Yes, yes.
And you said take the Z out on the autocross.
Yep. Hey, all you
I
have
did
to
pretty
know
good.
is how to get into second gear, and then you're in second gear through that whole course. So, like, this is becoming more of like a podcast type thing, which is fun because eventually
what I'm trying to
I'd
think of
like
it
to
as.
do something like this where there isn't necessarily like a what's the Fiesta ST's driving impression, like a owner interview, but let's just sit down and bullshit about like cars and car adjacent things for an hour and a half or some shit.
Yeah.
Like that would be fun. So if there's a audience for that, let me know. I feel like there's probably not at this point.
There probably is.
But otherwise, I'd like to thank Tyler for coming on the show and discussing some of the positives and negatives of Fiesta ST ownership. We got on some tangents there, but I think overall it was a fun discussion. And hopefully if you're considering a Fiesta ST, that might give you a little bit of perspective into using it every day, maybe in a place where a Fiesta ST probably shouldn't be used every day necessarily, and just giving you some context, some perspective before you go and make some kind of purchase like that. So thanks for watching. Thanks, Tyler, for coming on, and talk to you guys next time.